Silence becomes dangerous when two wounded hearts stop reaching for each other at the same time. When an avoidant and an empath both go no contact, the world may look calm from the outside, but inside, two completely different battles begin. The avoidant may feel relief first. No more emotional pressure, no more deep talks, no more questions that make them face feelings they were trying to bury. For them, the silence can feel like control, it can feel like safety, it can feel like finally being able to breathe. But for the empath, the first stage is often painful. The empath may feel the silence in their body, they may replay every moment, they may wonder why love ended with distance instead of honesty. They may feel the urge to explain one last time, to fix one last misunderstanding, to prove one last time that their love was real. But this is where the story changes. Because no contact is not only about no messages, no calls, no checking profiles, and no secret waiting. It is about breaking the emotional pattern that kept both people trapped. The avoidant no longer gets the comfort of being chased. The empath no longer keeps feeding the connection with their energy, and once that pattern breaks, both people are forced to meet the truth they were avoiding. In this video, you will learn what really happens when an avoidant and an empath both disappear from each other's lives. You will understand why the avoidant may look calm in the beginning but can feel the loss later when the silence becomes too real. You will also understand why the empath may feel destroyed at first but slowly begins to recover power, peace, and self-respect. This is not about blaming one side. It is about understanding the emotional cycle. Avoidants often protect themselves through distance. Empaths often protect love through patience. But when distance meets detachment, the old game stops working. The avoidant cannot run and still feel emotionally held. The empath cannot keep loving and still lose themselves. That is why this topic is so powerful, because the person who looked cold may not be as unaffected as they seem, and the person who looked too attached may not stay attached forever. Stay until the end, because the final stage is the most important part. That is when the power dynamic quietly changes. The avoidant may begin to look back at the same time the empath begins to move forward. The silence that once hurt the empath may become their healing. The silence that once comforted the avoidant may become the place where regret begins. Welcome to our channel. If you want calm, deep, and simple explanations about attachment, empathy, no contact, and emotional healing, subscribe now and stay with us until the end. The first thing that happens when an avoidant and an empath both go no contact is that the silence does not enter their bodies in the same way. It may look equal from the outside. Two people stop talking, two phones stay quiet, two lives move in separate directions. But inside, the experience is completely different. The avoidant often feels the silence as space. The empath often feels the silence as loss. This is the first split. This is where the same no contact becomes two different emotional worlds. For the avoidant, emotions can feel heavy when they come too close. Deep talks can feel like pressure. Questions can feel like control. A partner's need for closeness can feel like a demand, even when it is only a request for love, honesty, or reassurance. So when no contact begins, the avoidant may not feel pain first. They may feel quiet. They may feel room. They may feel like the emotional noise has finally stopped. Their nervous system may calm down because nobody is asking them to open up, explain, soften, or stay present. But the empath is built differently. The empath usually feels connection deeply. They feel tone, they feel distance, they feel small changes in energy. So when the silence begins, it does not feel like peace, it can feel like rejection, it can feel like the ground has been pulled away. The empath may keep checking the phone, not because they are weak, but because their heart is still used to being connected. Their mind may keep searching for meaning. Why did it end like this? Why did they go cold? Did they care at all? Was the love real? This is why no contact can feel unfair in the beginning. The avoidant may look calm, the empath may look emotional, but calm does not always mean healed. Emotional pain does not always mean broken. Sometimes the avoidant is calm because they are far from the feeling. Sometimes the empath is hurting because they are actually processing the feeling. The avoidant may be trying to return to control. The empath may be trying to survive the shock of disconnection. One is moving away from emotion, the other is moving through it. That is why the first days can be so confusing. The empath may think the avoidant has won because they seem untouched. The avoidant may think the empath will come back because that is what has happened before. But silence changes both people slowly. At first, it shows their coping style. Later, it reveals the truth under that coping style. The avoidant silence may be protection. The empath silence may be pain, but both are being forced into a space where the old pattern cannot keep feeding itself. And once the old pattern has no energy, both people start facing what they were trying not to feel. For the avoidant, no contact often feels like relief before it feels like loss. This does not always mean they did not care. It means closeness may have started to feel too demanding for their nervous system. When a relationship becomes emotionally intense, the avoidant may begin to feel trapped. They may love the person but still feel overwhelmed by the closeness. They may miss the connection but also feel afraid of what the connection asks from them. This is the conflict many people do not understand. An avoidant can want love and still pull away from the very person who gives it. They can crave connection and still feel safer alone. So when no contact begins, their first reaction may be a deep breath. No more explaining, no more emotional talks, no more fear of being seen too clearly. No more pressure to answer messages in a way that feels intimate. No more feeling like someone is waiting for them to become emotionally available. This relief can feel real. It can feel clean. It can even feel like freedom. The avoidant may tell themselves that this is proof they made the right choice. They may focus on work, routines, friends, distractions, or independence. They may think, I am better when I am alone. I do not need this stress. I do not need someone asking so much from me. But this relief is often not true healing. It is the nervous system returning to what feels familiar. For many avoidants, distance is familiar, silence is familiar, self-control is familiar, not needing anyone is familiar. So no contact gives them the exact condition their attachment system uses to calm down. But calm is not always peace. Sometimes calm is only the absence of pressure. The avoidant may not miss the empath clearly in the beginning because their mind is still focused on escaping discomfort. They may remember the conflict more than the care. They may remember the hard conversations more than the tenderness. They may focus on the moments where they felt criticized, cornered, or emotionally demanded from. This helps them justify the distance. It helps them keep the door closed. It helps them feel in control. But under the surface, the bond does not always disappear. It can sit quietly. It can wait. Avoidants often process emotion later because they first need to feel safe from it. While the empath is crying, thinking, and trying to make sense of everything, the avoidant may be numb or distracted. But numbness is not the same as closure. Sometimes the avoidant is not feeling the loss yet because they are still feeling the relief of not being emotionally pulled. They may mistake this relief for healing. They may mistake distance for clarity. They may mistake the lack of conflict for proof that the relationship was the problem. But no contact has a way of stripping away the easy explanations. When enough time passes and the empath does not return, the avoidant may start to notice that the pressure is gone, but so is the warmth. The questions are gone, but so is the care. The emotional demands are gone, but so is the person who kept trying to understand them. That is when relief can begin to change shape. The empath usually feels the pain first because they do not detach by shutting down. They detach by feeling everything until the feeling loses its power. At the beginning of no contact, the empath may feel like they are carrying the whole relationship alone. Their mind may replay the last conversation. Their heart may search for the moment everything changed. They may keep asking themselves if they were too much, too emotional, too honest, too available, or too patient. This is one of the painful sides of being deeply empathic. The empath can understand the other person so much that they forget to protect themselves. They may think about the avoidance wounds. They may excuse the distance. They may remember the avoidance good side. They may tell themselves that the avoidant is only scared, only overwhelmed, only unable to express what they feel. And while some of that may be true, it can also keep the empath trapped in emotional labor. The empath may keep doing work for a relationship that is no longer giving anything back. They may analyze, they may forgive silently, they may wait for the avoidant to realize the damage. They may feel guilty for going no contact, even if no contact was the only way to stop bleeding emotionally. This guilt is heavy. It can make the empath want to reach out just to reduce the discomfort. Not because the relationship is healthy, not because the avoidant has changed, but because the empath is used to soothing pain through connection. They are used to fixing the silence. They are used to making peace. But this time, if the empath stays silent, something begins to change. The pain starts becoming a detox. It hurts because the empath is no longer getting little doses of hope. No message, no small reply, no mixed signal, no sudden warmth after coldness. No tiny sign that keeps them emotionally attached. The nervous system begins to withdraw from the cycle, and withdrawal can feel brutal. The empath may feel lonely, they may feel restless, they may feel like they lost not only a person but a role. Because in that relationship, the empath may have become the emotional translator, the patient one, the healer, the one who understood everything. No contact removes that role. It forces the empath to ask a hard question. Who am I when I am not trying to save this connection? That question can feel empty at first, but it is also the beginning of freedom. The empath starts seeing how much energy was going into trying to reach someone who kept stepping back. They start noticing how often their peace depended on the avoidance mood. They start realizing that love should not require constant emotional guessing. This early pain does not mean the empath is losing. It means the empath is finally feeling the cost of overgiving. They may still miss the avoidant. They may still care. They may still hope for an apology. But slowly the pain starts teaching them what the relationship could not. It teaches them that compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. It teaches them that understanding someone does not mean accepting emotional absence forever. It teaches them that silence can hurt and heal at the same time. The most powerful shift happens when the empath does not chase. This is the moment the old pattern begins to collapse. In many avoidant and empath dynamics, the same cycle repeats again and again. The avoidant feels too much closeness, so they pull away. The empath feels the distance, so they move closer. The avoidant feels more pressure, so they shut down more. The empath feels more fear, so they explain more, ask more, give more, and try harder. Both people feel unsafe, but they show it in opposite ways. The avoidant tries to feel safe by creating distance. The empath tries to feel safe by restoring connection. That is why the relationship can become emotionally exhausting. Nobody is truly calm. They are both reacting. But when the empath finally stops chasing, the system loses its fuel. The avoidant may not expect this at first. They may expect the empath to reach out. They may expect another long message. They may expect another attempt to explain the pain. They may expect the empath to soften first, apologize first, or open the door again. This expectation may not even be conscious. It can be built from the history of the relationship. If the empath always returned, the avoidant may quietly believe they will return again. That belief gives the avoidant hidden reassurance. They can take distance while still feeling emotionally held. They can pull away while still knowing someone cares. They can avoid the hard conversation while still receiving the comfort of being wanted. But when the empath does not chase, that hidden comfort disappears. The avoidant is left with the silence they created, but now the silence has no emotional cushion. Nobody is softening it. Nobody is filling it. Nobody is proving love through pain. This can create confusion inside the avoidant. At first, they may tell themselves the empath is just upset. Then they may think the empath is trying to gain control. Then they may begin to wonder if the empath has really stopped caring. That question can disturb them more than they expected, because as long as the empath was chasing, the avoidant could focus on feeling pressured. But when the empath stops, the avoidant has to face the absence without blaming the empath's intensity. There is no message to criticize, no emotional request to avoid, no conversation to escape, only quiet. And inside that quiet, the avoidant may begin to feel the weight of what they lost. The empath's silence also changes the empath. Every time they do not chase, they take back a small piece of themselves. Every time they do not explain again, they stop teaching someone how to value them. Every time they do not reach for the person who hurt them, they teach their own nervous system that love does not have to mean panic. This is why no contact can become powerful. Not because it punishes the avoidant, not because it proves the empath is stronger, but because it breaks the automatic response. The empath is no longer acting from fear. The avoidant is no longer being protected from consequences by the empath's overgiving. The relationship pattern stands still for the first time. And when a pattern stops moving, both people can finally see what it was doing to them. The avoidant often starts feeling the loss late because their emotional system usually needs distance before it allows feeling to rise. In the beginning, the avoidant may focus on relief. They may feel less pressure. They may feel less watched. They may enjoy the silence because it gives them control again. But as time passes, the silence can begin to change. The space that once felt calming can start feeling too empty. The absence that once felt peaceful can start feeling personal. This is where the delayed impact begins. The avoidant may not sit down and clearly say, "I miss them." It may come in smaller ways. They may think of a joke the empath would understand. They may hear a song and remember a quiet moment. They may pass a place that pulls up a memory. They may check the empath's profile without wanting to admit why. They may wonder if the empath has moved on. They may feel a sudden urge to send a casual message, not a deep one, just enough to test if the door is still open. This is common because avoidants often prefer low-risk contact. A small message feels safer than emotional honesty. A simple question feels safer than saying, "I miss you." A reaction to a story feels safer than accountability. But underneath these small actions, there may be a bigger feeling trying to reach the surface. The avoidant may begin to realize that the empath's presence had been regulating them in ways they did not notice. The empath's warmth, patience, attention, and emotional availability may have become part of the avoidant's world. But because it was always there, the avoidant may have taken it for granted. Only when it is gone do they feel the empty space it leaves behind. This is the painful irony. The avoidant may push away the very connection that made them feel deeply cared for. Then later, when the connection stops chasing them, they begin to feel the loss of being cared for. But feeling loss late does not always mean they are ready to love differently. This is important. Missing someone is not the same as being ready to show up. Regret is not the same as growth. Curiosity is not the same as accountability. The avoidant may feel the loss and still be afraid of closeness. They may reach out and then disappear again. They may test the empath's availability without offering real emotional safety. They may want the comfort back, but not the responsibility that comes with it. This is why the empath must be careful. The avoidant's delayed emotion can feel powerful. It can feel like proof that the bond mattered. It can feel like the moment the empath waited for. But the real question is not whether the avoidant misses them. The real question is whether the avoidant is willing to face the pattern. Are they willing to talk honestly? Are they willing to stop using silence as protection? Are they willing to understand how their distance affected the person who loved them? If not, the late loss may only restart the cycle. Still, inside the avoidant, this stage can be intense. The silence no longer gives only comfort. It begins to ask questions. Why did they stop trying? Why do I feel unsettled now? Why does their absence feel stronger than their presence felt before? And those questions can become the first crack in the avoidant's emotional wall. While the avoidant may start feeling the loss late, the empath may slowly begin to get their power back. This does not happen all at once. At first, the empath may feel weak for missing the avoidant. They may feel ashamed for still caring. They may feel angry at themselves for wanting a message from someone who made them feel alone. But healing does not require instant detachment. It requires honesty. The empath begins to heal when they stop confusing love with emotional labor. This is a painful lesson, but it is one of the most important ones. Loving someone does not mean managing their fear for them. Loving someone does not mean shrinking your needs so they feel comfortable. Loving someone does not mean becoming endlessly patient with emotional absence. The empath may begin to see how much of the relationship was spent trying to understand the avoidant, why they pulled away, why they went cold, why they avoided hard talks, why they acted close one day and distant the next. The empath may realize they were using their empathy to explain pain instead of protecting themselves from it. That realization can be heartbreaking, but it also brings power, because once the empath sees the pattern clearly, they cannot unsee it. They begin to notice how peace feels when they are not waiting for someone's mood to change. They begin to sleep without checking their phone. They begin to breathe without wondering if they did too much. They begin to think about their own needs again. Slowly, their nervous system learns that silence does not always mean abandonment. Sometimes silence means recovery. Sometimes silence means the body is finally leaving survival mode. The empath may start feeling their own emotions again instead of constantly feeling the avoidance distance. They may notice old interests returning. They may laugh without guilt. They may spend time with people who do not make love feel like a test. This is where detachment becomes strength. Not coldness, not revenge, strength. The empath does not become powerful by becoming cruel. They become powerful by becoming clear. They stop asking, how do I make them choose me? They begin asking, why did I keep choosing someone who could not meet me emotionally? That question changes everything. It moves the empath from obsession to self-respect. It moves them from waiting to waking up. The empath may still have soft feelings. They may still wish the avoidant well. They may still remember the good moments. But the difference is that they no longer sacrifice themselves to keep those memories alive. They no longer treat potential like proof. They no longer accept small signs of care as a full relationship. This is the quiet return of power. The empath starts understanding that their love was never the problem. Their depth was never the problem. Their loyalty was never the problem. The problem was giving those gifts to someone who could only receive them in small amounts, then disappear when the connection became real. No contact gives the empath enough distance to see that love should feel safe, not like constant emotional guessing. And once the empath feels that truth, the old pull begins to weaken. There comes a point where the power dynamic quietly flips. It may not happen loudly. There may be no dramatic message, no big announcement, no clear sign from the outside. But inside both people, the emotional positions begin to change. The avoidant, who once felt safer with distance, may start becoming curious. The empath, who once felt desperate for closeness, may start becoming detached. This is the emotional twist in the story. In the beginning, the empath may have seemed like the one who needed the connection more. They may have cried more. They may have explained more. They may have cared more openly. The avoidant may have seemed stronger because they could walk away, stay silent, or act unaffected. But as time passes, what looked like strength can reveal itself as avoidance, and what looked like weakness can reveal itself as emotional courage. The empath felt the pain early. They faced the grief early. They sat with the discomfort early. So by the time the avoidant begins to feel the absence, the empath may already be moving into acceptance. This creates a strange and powerful shift. The avoidant may begin looking back at the same time the empath stops waiting. The avoidant may begin wondering what the empath is doing at the same time the empath begins choosing themselves. The avoidant may start feeling the emotional impact at the exact moment the empath starts feeling free from it. This is not because the empath stopped caring overnight. It is because the empath finally got tired of abandoning themselves. They may still love the avoidant in some quiet corner of their heart, but they no longer want to live inside that pain. Meanwhile, the avoidant may begin to feel unsettled because the empath's energy is no longer available. There is no emotional safety net, no silent loyalty reaching toward them, no one trying to decode their mixed signals. This can make the avoidant feel the bond more clearly, but now the empath is different. The empath is not standing in the same place anymore. They are not as easy to pull back with a small message. They are not as willing to restart the cycle without change. They may read the avoidant's name on the phone and feel their heart move, but they also feel their wisdom speak. They remember the confusion. They remember the waiting. They remember how much they lost trying to keep the connection alive. This is where the real power shift happens. The empath no longer needs the avoidant to validate the pain. They no longer need the avoidant to admit everything for healing to begin. They no longer need one final conversation to understand what the pattern already showed them. And the avoidant may sense this. They may feel that the empath's energy has changed. It is softer toward themselves and less available to the old cycle. That can create regret, curiosity, and even fear. Because avoidance may be used to leaving space, but they may not be used to someone they valued becoming truly unreachable. The power dynamic flips when the empath stops begging for clarity and becomes clear. It flips when the avoidant can no longer control closeness through distance. It flips when silence stops being the avoidant's shield and becomes the empath's boundary. If the avoidant and the empath reconnect after no contact, the outcome depends on whether both people have changed the pattern or only missed the comfort. This is where many people get confused. A message after silence can feel powerful. It can feel like fate. It can feel like proof that the connection was too strong to disappear. But a message is not healing. A return is not repair. Missing someone is not the same as becoming safe for them. If the avoidant comes back without accountability and the empath comes back without boundaries, the same cycle can begin again very quickly. At first, it may feel warm. There may be relief. There may be soft words. There may be a sense that the silence proved the bond mattered. But if the deeper issues are not faced, the old pattern waits underneath. The avoidant may enjoy the reconnection until emotions become serious again. The empath may feel hopeful and start giving too much too soon. The avoidant may begin to feel pressure. The empath may begin to feel distance. Then the avoidant pulls back, and the empath starts trying harder. The pain repeats because the pattern was never healed, it was only paused. This is why reconnection must be handled with clarity. The empath must ask, has this person changed, or are they only lonely? Are they ready to talk about what happened, or do they want to skip over the pain? Are they willing to be consistent, or are they only reaching out because they miss the comfort of being loved? These questions matter because empaths can be moved by emotion very quickly. One sincere-sounding message can wake up all the hope they worked hard to calm. But hope needs evidence. Love needs behavior. Words need follow-through. At the same time, the avoidant must also face their side. They must ask themselves if they are returning because they want real closeness or because the empath's absence made them feel abandoned. They must understand that coming back means more than reopening contact. It means learning how to stay present when emotions rise. It means being honest instead of disappearing. It means saying what feels uncomfortable instead of creating confusion. It means understanding that space is healthy only when it is communicated, not when it is used as silent punishment or escape. If both people become self-aware, then no contact can become a turning point. It can show the avoidant how much they lose when they run from vulnerability. It can show the empath how much they lose when they overgive without boundaries. It can teach both people that love is not only chemistry, longing, or emotional intensity. Love also needs safety. It needs responsibility. It needs communication. It needs two people who are willing to look at themselves. But if only one person has grown, reconnection becomes dangerous. If the empath has grown but the avoidant has not, the empath may be pulled back into a bond that asks them to shrink again. If the avoidant has grown but the empath has no boundaries, the empath may still overfunction and prevent real change. Both sides must stop playing their old roles. The avoidant cannot keep being the one who runs when things feel real. The empath cannot keep being the one who carries the emotional weight for both. Reconnection works only when the silence has taught them something. It works when the avoidant returns with honesty, not just curiosity. It works when the empath listens with compassion, but also protects their peace. It works when both people can speak about the past without turning it into blame. It works when the goal is not to restart the old relationship, but to build a healthier one with new rules, new awareness, and real emotional responsibility. In the end, no contact between an avoidant and an empath is not really about who wins. It is not about who looks stronger, who stays silent longer, or who makes the other person suffer more. Real no contact is not a game, it is a mirror. It shows what was real, what was unhealthy, and what only survived because one person kept chasing while the other kept running. When the chasing stops, the truth finally starts to appear. The avoidant may begin to realize that the empath was not the problem. The empath's love was not the problem. Their questions were not always control. Their need for clarity was not weakness. Maybe they were only asking for emotional safety. And sometimes, when the empath is no longer there giving warmth, patience, and understanding, the avoidant finally feels the weight of what they pushed away. But the empath also sees a truth. They realize that love should not feel like begging. It should not feel like waiting for basic care. It should not feel like proving your heart to someone who keeps disappearing when emotions become real. The empath may still care, but they stop losing themselves just to keep a connection alive. That is where peace begins, not when the avoidant comes back, not when the empath gets an apology, but when both people are finally honest about what the silence revealed. No contact is not meant to create cruelty, it is meant to create space. Space to breathe, space to heal, space to stop repeating the same painful cycle. And whether they reconnect or never speak again, the lesson remains the same. Love without self-respect becomes pain, and distance without honesty becomes regret. When both go no contact, the truth finally has room to speak. Now comment below what you think happens first. Does the avoidant feel the loss first, or does the empath heal first? If this video gave you clarity, like it so more people can understand this painful pattern. Subscribe to the channel for more calm, deep, and simple psychology videos about no contact, attachment, detachment, and emotional healing. And share this video with someone who is trying to understand silence, self-respect, and why walking away can sometimes be the beginning of peace.